The Sober Dog with Rob the Man Schultz.
You.
Yeah. Rob is one of my best friends, been one of my best friends for years. We did a ton of terrible stuff together, unfortunately. I don't want to say terrible, the word necessarily, but bad. And, used a lot together. Our diseases progressed a lot. And then, by a miracle, grace of God, we're both sitting here sober today. And Rob has been through a lot in his addiction. And Rob, why don't you give us just a little bit about some of your using days to start off with? What was it like?
In the beginning, you don't even know. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. And by the time you find out, it's too late. And like a daily occurrence for me was to wake up sick and scramble to figure out how I'm going to get my next fix. Who am I going to rob? What store am I going to rob? Who am I going to con? Who am I going to manipulate? Just what am I going to do so I don't have to feel the way that I'm feeling right now?
That's crazy. I'm sitting here just shaking my head because it's just, I could relate to that 100%. Waking up, withdrawal is kicking in, and every hour you don't get high, it's going to get worse. And knowing that you're going to have to lie, cheat, and steal from your friends or family or a complete stranger to get rid of that sickness and get rid of that feeling. Just awful. So what happened? What was kind of the turning point or points that made you start to second guess?
So I can give you like a few month overview of my last few months drinking and drugging. So I had caught a couple of charges down in Florida, and I was enrolled in drug court, which obviously is supposed to stop you from getting high, right? Well, if you're an addict like I am, nothing stops you from getting high. Even if it's charges pending, drug court, whatever it is, you'll usually try to find a way to manipulate the system, which I was able to do for a good while until I got caught, because that's what happens. You eventually get caught. And I abscond from drug court. I have an active warrant for my arrest.
Had an active warrant. You said have. They ain't looking for him now.
Past tense. Yeah, so something pretty traumatic happened shortly after that. Sometimes it's a little hard for me to talk about, but it is a part of my story, so I would like to share it. An acquaintance of mine, a coworker of mine at the time, drove me home from work one day, and we decided we were going to use together. So we both did what we do. We were doing heroin, so we both took a shot. After his shot, he completely passed out, and I did not do the right thing, which every day that goes by, I wonder why I didn't, and I wish that I did do something different. But I guess my inaction resulted in this man's death. So after that, I was the last known person to see him. I had detectives calling me, asking me to do statements, trying to figure out what happened. So I gave a statement. I told them exactly what happened. After I gave the statement, I asked the detective, so what do we do from here? What's going to go on? What's going to happen? He says, well, on one end of the spectrum, you could just be a witness. On the other end of the spectrum, you could be charged with manslaughter. So he lets me go from there. I go home. The detective runs my name that very next day, finds out that I have an active warrant. So he comes to my work the next day, calls me while I'm on my lunch break and says, "Hey, I'm here. I got something to talk to you about separate from what we talked about yesterday." I go down. He says, "Hey, I ran your name. You have a warrant. You're coming with me." So this is the day before Thanksgiving, 2017. So I get to spend Thanksgiving in jail, detoxing, sick as hell. I was in jail for a couple of weeks. I got let out. They reinstated me to drug court. I was supposed to check into drug court that same day that I got released, but my addict mentality is like, you know what? One last hurrah before I check into drug court. So I get high immediately, as soon as I get out of jail. And so I take my buddy's car to the dope man's house, get my drugs, go to the nearest parking lot, shoot up. I pass out, and when I wake up, I'm like, oh, shoot, I didn't even realize I passed out. I'm like, all right, I'm good to drive home. I go to drive home, I nod out again, and I total that car. I get in an accident, I total that car, and this is like 60 minutes out of jail. And I have to go home and tell my buddy. They don't arrest me. They don't realize I'm high, which I don't know how they didn't realize that. But I have to tell my buddy, I just totaled your car. Sorry. I'll pay for it. I swear I'll get you back. I'll get you back. I don't check into drug court for a few weeks. I'm still getting high. That one last time turned into a few weeks. So I finally decide, you know what? Shit's getting out of hand. I should probably check into drug court. So then I decided to go into drug court randomly one day, and I'm like, hey, I'm here. And they're like, well, it's kind of too late. Like, where you been? You're probably going back to jail. And I was like, come on, just give me a chance. And they're like, all right, well, can you pee clean? And I said, no. So they're like, okay, well, you need to go to detox then. So I got court ordered to detox. This was December 20th, 2017. So I'm court ordered to detox during Christmas. Thanksgiving in jail, Christmas in detox. I get out of detox a couple days before New Year's Eve. I'm home for a few days. January 4th was my last use, unknowingly at the time. But about 5 a.m. on January 5th, the SWAT team busted in my apartment, finally picking me up on the manslaughter that happened a few months before. So I go to jail, and I finally have a clear enough brain after being in there for, a few weeks to a month. At that point, I can finally clearly look back on the last 10 years of my life and realize like the train wreck and the destruction that I've left in my path. And it wasn't until then, until I was stopped, until all those events happened, until somebody lost their life, that I was able to make a decision and decide that I need to do something. And I was lucky enough to get a deal and let out of jail with a lot of stipulations. One of those stipulations being court ordered to a halfway house, which was Blue Waters Recovery, Sober Living by Tiffany in Pompano Beach, Florida, which was the place that saved my life. I was there for 6 months under court order. I wanted to work this AA program, had no idea how to do it. That place taught me how to do it, how to work it thoroughly, and made sure that we were doing it as clients. And it gave me a good foundation for my recovery in order to be able to live one day at a time, hopefully, God willing, for the rest of my life as a sober individual. So that's the long and short version.
Wow. That is, astonishing, crazy, amazing, sad, mixed all into one. And one thing I think is very important, I've been asked by a lot of people, if a friend or somebody, overdoses when you are with them or, near them or whatever, a lot of people say, well, that should be enough for you to get clean, or that should be after that, there's no way you could use. And I think Rob can, attest to this, but when an addict loses a friend, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, it doesn't matter, maybe that person is right next to him and they, God forbid, overdoses and dies. My brain says, wow, this is the most crazy, traumatic thing I'm dealing with, and the only way I know how to cope is to get more high or to continue getting high. So it's not just this logical, clear thought of, wow, that's dangerous, I should quit. It doesn't usually happen like that, and I think, some people who don't have, addiction, or don't suffer from addiction, kind of get confused by that a little bit. Is that kind of how the case?
Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me, would that be enough? At that point, I would have said yes, but I would have kept doing it without a solution. The program of AA, NA, HA, CA, any of these anonymous 12-step programs has been referred to as the best coping mechanism, the best coping tools in the world. So without that solution or that program, the only thing that us addicts and alcoholics know to do to cope with our feelings and what we're dealing with is to get high or get drunk. So that's our go-to. And as active users, we're very unpredictable. We don't know what we're going to do the next 5 minutes. The only thing we know how to do, and the only thing that we're wired to do, is to get high and get the next fix. So something as traumatic as that should, to a normal person, scare somebody sober, but with our brains wired the way they are, fortunately it doesn't work like that.
That's a fact. This a gentleman was trying to explain to my father one time about addiction, and he said, you don't get it. He said, if three of us are sitting at a table and Bob does some drugs and falls on the floor and overdoses, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? And my father, who's not doesn't suffer from addiction, said, well, besides the obvious, get him help, but said, wow, that stuff's poison, I would never do it. Our brains go to, wow, that stuff's awesome, where can we get it?
I'll have what he's having.
Yeah, and that's sad but true. Now, Rob, last question here. What advice would you give someone out there still running, suffering from addiction, active addiction?
I'd say give yourself a shot. These rooms of AA, NA, any of those 12-step programs that I've referred to a few times already, give it a shot. Give yourself a shot. Work a program, get a sponsor, and follow your sponsor's suggestions. If you don't like it, the streets will always be there. The bars will always be there. But I can tell you, being clean and sober for the last almost 2 years, my life has been unexplainably better than it ever could have been without stopping the drugs and the alcohol. So yes, in the beginning you're going to have little bits of uncomfortability, but if you can fight through those little points of discontent and get through to the other side, your life is going to get better and better by the day.
Wow. That's so true. That's an unbelievably powerful statement. They told me, try it for 90 days. If you don't like it, we'll refund your misery. So that's awesome. Thanks, Rob, for sharing all that, sharing your story. I know it's very emotional, a lot of feelings, but, I know it definitely helps Rob cope with everything by sharing his experience, and hopefully could help somebody out there who could relate to his story. All right, everybody, make sure you share this story and someone you think might relate to it, or just to help get us, get Soberdogs content out there. This opioid epidemic is not slowing down anytime soon, so we got to all fight it together. Right, Rob?
That's right. Soberdogs.com, baby.
Yeah! See ya!
See ya.